All right, welcome to Roots of Reality. I'm your host, Ben Baumann, and today I'm joined by Jason Paige, who is famous for being the singer of the incredibly popular original Pokémon theme song. Additionally, Jason has worked with many famous musicians throughout his career, including Michael Jackson, Foreigner, Frankie Valli, Usher, and more. So, Jason, thanks for coming on today.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, I'm curious, how did you first get interested in music?
Um, I think we are all musical beings from the time that we're born. We are crying that high C sharp. Right away, we are musical. Speech is musical. Our music is in schools. Mary had a little lamb. Our first things that we memorize, our parents sing to us. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We learn to speak. We learn music is inherent. It's kind of like, when did you get into dancing? Like we danced in the same way. Kids just dance. They hear music and they dance. It's like we are creative, expressive beings right in the beginning. Um, it's really the question is when does music get ripped from us? Do we start to reject it
Hmm.
and not be the musical beings that we inherently are?
Yeah.
And that rejection usually comes in the form of an angry parent trying to quiet down the joy and exuberant singing of a child who's singing the songs that will help them learn how to speak.
Yeah.
You're singing the
Yeah.
ABC song too much. You're too excited about Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Ring Around the Rosie, the songs that you're taught as a 2 and 3 year old to speak. As a 4 year old, you're told to shut up. And then
Hmm.
you're sitting down in school and you're forced out of your natural creative state into an unnatural learning, forced learning. Compulsory schooling is usually the first thing that limits a child's musical ability. And then later on in the compulsory schooling system, we get to pick one 30-minute time period where we get introduced back to music again in an extremely pragmatic way that oftentimes really removes music from that person for the rest of their lives because they were so distraught by having to memorize the scales and
Uh,
figure out the technical side of advanced music that they don't ever want to do it again, or they do it at the behest of the teachers and the parents that want them to learn it so exactly that they become these button pushing people that play music
hmm.
but don't feel music. They play classical music to this proficient level where they're not loving it, they're not expressive, they're just following orders to play all of that incredibly technically difficult but quite beautiful in the end, um, you know, classical pieces. So, or they reject it completely and they never go back to it again. Kind of like my mother, who had to learn piano because
Oh,
her
wow.
parents forced her to do it, and she can actually look at a. It's amazing. She never plays, but she could look at a sheet of music and then push all the buttons and be able to like get through a basic two staves that are like I can't even,
Yeah.
I can't put my brain on it because it takes so much discipline and focus to do that, that really only if you've done that as a child with this big beautiful mind ready to follow whatever authority tells them could you execute something so difficult. As an adult, it's extremely hard to learn a technical craft like that.
Yeah.
So those children often wind up not being involved in music anymore, like my mom.
Okay.
Um,
So,
anyway, that was a loaded question.
so I guess for you then you never had that experience of feeling like you were kind of ripped away from musical joy as a child. And I think that's actually a really interesting way of thinking about it that I haven't thought about before because I feel like a lot of people become insecure about their musical abilities as a child if they're ever criticized, like their singing's, out of tune or something, and people are like, "Oh, you're a terrible singer." And I think from that point on, that could damage someone's musical potential as a result.
Absolutely. We're extremely vulnerable as children. And that's why, a lot of children actually get through that. And you see these 4-year-old virtuosos because they're being rewarded or they're
Yeah,
being punished for not doing what it is that authority is telling them to do. And I think we thrive when we are supported in what is most natural and most organic for us to create. And every human being is a brilliant mind waiting to blossom. And
yes,
my parents just encouraged me. They stood behind whatever I was doing, and fostered that and supported that. And systems like school did stop me and interrupt a lot of that progress.
sure.
Um, but yet, outside of the schooling environment, I was supported enough to be able to find the joy and continue to have the joy in doing these things that I eventually turned into a career, like
Yeah, that's
doodling.
right.
It's just a doodle. It's just a child's doodle,
Yeah,
but every child's doodle can be a brilliant
oh,
thing.
definitely.
And yeah, it's an amazing thing. I think children they innately will try to create value, try to make people happy, try to be helpful, and if supported, can be the geniuses that they are, all of us.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Um, thinking about your career then, how did you first get involved with the Pokemon, TV series? How did that even come about?
Well, I am what has been known as a jingle singer, a session singer. Can you see that?
Yeah, yep.
There you go. So in the session world, um, you're asked to do a whole bunch of different things. But getting into the session world started with the television show, basically, that my band got dropped. I had about 10 years of banding from the age of 13, 14 to 24.
Okay.
I was in a band and we got signed and we played all the clubs in New York City and we did really well. It was called the What's Up, the band. When we got dropped, we made a public access cable TV show right here, the What's Up show, which
Okay.
went on public access. And we became local Manhattan cable TV celebrities. And are you hearing that? I'm sorry, I just got
No, you're fine.
we became local Manhattan celebrities, which is pretty cool because that's New York City celebrity status.
Yeah.
Walking around Manhattan, getting recognized. But there was no money in that because you're just putting your own material on public access for the sake of your creative expression. So one of the band members and I said, let's start a jingle house where we write music for television commercials and movies and
Wow.
theme songs and all kinds of corporate projects. So we made a demo reel on a cassette tape of jingles, fake jingles that we created. Evian, do you want pure, clear mountain spring water? Evian. We made up these jingles. It's like 6 or 7 of them. Lucky for you, there's 7 up. Just, the funny thing was, and we're looking back on it, the jingles none of them were 30 seconds long or 1 minute long. We
Yeah.
just made up random, they were short, but we didn't even realize they had to be 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 15 seconds as standard television jingles are. We handed this cassette tape out to multiple jingle houses, music houses in New York City, and began getting assignments to write and record demos for their up and coming projects that they were hired by ad agencies. So we worked for this company called New York Jam, and they had an assignment from Lego, or they had assignment from the ad agency that Lego hired,
Mm,
and Lego hired New York Jam to write a whole bunch of jingles or at least it might not have even in the beginning. It might have been a competition to get the Lego account. So each jingle house will either sometimes they have a budget, sometimes they're doing it on their own without a budget to win the account. So we did about 5 Lego songs, 6 Lego demos, and the Jingle House also did their own Lego demos, and our song won the Lego account. So
Wow.
this company now that Lego song was re-recorded and put onto 6 or 7 Lego commercials per year for 5 to 6 years, I think, between the years of '95 and 2000. That was one company that we worked for. We worked for another company called Rave Music, which was the music house that became that got the gig for Pokemon.
Okay.
So
Wow.
we had done demos for them, written demos for them, and I had gone in also to sing for them many times without writing anything because they recognized my vocal talents and could use me on all the stuff that they were writing, and we would be writing things too. So I would double up and sing on multiple spots in a campaign pitch. And Pokemon was one of those things they got, and they knew what they wanted
Yeah,
from the piece, and they hired me to sing the demo. And I was the right voice, but
definitely.
it goes through a process back and forth with the client, which was 4 kids. They were hired by Pokemon to dub the English version and
Mm,
create all of the English content. They hired Paradise Music, and Paradise Music hired me. So um, this, handing out cassette tapes, doing it on our own, doing it because we loved it. Now, just go. I'm gonna go back to the What's Up show for a second
sure.
because when we would hand these cassette tapes out, knocking on doors, literally knocking on doors, they would be like, "You're the guy from the What's Up TV show. I love that show. Oh wow, you guys are great. I mean, we watch it all the time. My wife videotapes it. She's got videotapes of it. I mean, it was all this organic enthusiasm for the crazy stuff we were doing on public access. And there was musical stuff and parodies and silly things we would do in that. And that tied into the jingle world and all the people that had seen me already and would stop us on the streets on a daily basis to talk about the crazy TV show that we were putting out. So, putting yourself out there in these ways all the pieces kind of fit together.
Yeah,
And that's how the jingle world works. You go around to these different sessions and you sing jingles for all these companies and their demos until they go final. Barbie. Oh, it's an itsy witsy teeny weeny giggly wiggly baby Emily. Barbie walks and Emily laughs right away. Baby Emily. We've got Subway Eat Fresh. We got do 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 always Coca-Cola. We've got the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Dozens of jingles are produced for all of these brands every year,
yeah,
and if you're in that scene, at least at the time, you go around to all these recording studios and record all of these vocals, and they're all little seeds that get planted, hopefully to grow
sure.
into a full gig that is paying
Right,
because
of
at that
course.
point it's just a cheap demo fee.
Yeah,
Um, it still is like that, although a lot of times now they just do a one-time buyout. Whereas like with Lego, it's a residual commercial on a residual payment for every time the commercial runs. They have to pay a certain amount of money.
yeah. Wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I imagine then that almost every American at some point in their lives has probably heard one of your jingles then,
Oh,
given
absolutely. When
everything
you
you've been
get
involved with.
nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach.
Diarrhea, yeah.
There it is. There it is. He knows it.
That's
It's
amazing.
on there somewhere.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah. That's wild. Now, when did you first realize that, the Pokemon song was going to become like a career defining moment for you?
Um, well, of course, when it went final and the TV show went on, and then okay, now I've got this TV show
Yeah.
that is right there next to Lego,
Yep.
which is a huge brand already, but that was just the beginning of it. I think after the first few months, they decided they wanted to do the album to be a
Hmm.
master,
Yeah.
and because the TV show was so popular, and that was kind of like, oh wow, they're gonna make an album of this. However, I had that happen a couple of times before.
Okay.
There's a thing over here. Oh, Wonderboys. This was a Dutch commercial for a soup company called Unox, where they created a fake band in the TV commercial, and I sang the jingle for the fake band in the TV commercial. The TV commercial became such a hit in the Netherlands that they decided to bring me over and replace one of the models in the TV commercial with me,
Wow.
and put this whole song out as a single with a music video on the music video channels in Germany and the Netherlands. So I've got a record being released that emerges out of a commercial. Well, that's pretty much what happened with Pokemon as well. Now they're going to do a record emerging out of this, it's just a commercial. It's a jingle for the show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a commercial per se, but it is a jingle, which is a commercial for the TV show. And now they're going to make a full version and make and do a whole thing. So when that happens, it's like, all right, well, this thing is moving to the next level.
Yeah.
When it really kicked in was when I heard the song on Radio Disney, and I'm like, now I'm a full-fledged, pop artist
Yeah.
or kids artist at that point. It wasn't really pop. I'm on the pop charts. I'm on the kids charts, but number one best-selling album on the kids charts, and the song is getting played in its full 3-minute version, you know, 20 times a day. They were playing it so
Yeah.
many times. I think it set the record for the most plays on Radio Disney
Jeez.
at the time. And then it's just kind of like, all right, that's what it is, and that it's for kids. And the rest of my life, of all of my work and all of my sessions and my theater productions and my all the wonderful creative experiences that I had were my focus until 2016, when Pokemon Go came out,
Yeah.
and all of the kids, because it was just for kids. Parents really weren't into it. There was no market. I mean, I guess there was a market for Pokemon. People were going to Comic Cons, and all the Pokemon voice actors were going to places and signing autographs at Comic Cons, but I had no idea what a Comic Con was, and I wasn't like part of any Pokemon success. There was nothing going on, in my mind. I've never sung the song. I've never, every now and then a younger fan would smile when they found out I sang the song, but
Sure.
there was no opportunities there that I knew of.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go came out, and all of the children of the Pokemon generation had now grown up to be adults, or at least young adults, and encountered each other in the streets playing Pokemon Go.
That's amazing.
And this app exploded because there were that many people who shared this common interest. Over 1 billion people have downloaded that app so far. Um, and so, of course, if there's a billion people that just love Pokemon Go, there's more than a billion people that are Pokemon fans.
Yeah.
And of course, all of those people know the song. And then some, because it's on Radio Disney. Even if you're not, even if you're not watching the TV show, you're hearing the song in other places as well. And that was in 2016. I started getting requests to do interviews and to come to events. A Comic Con. I'm like, what's that? I look it
Yeah.
up. I'm like,
Yeah.
LA Comic Con, Stan Lee's Comic Con. What? And I'm like, oh wow, there's all these people with booths, and they're signing autographs, and all these pop culture things are there. I'm gonna go and see what this is all about. And that was that's when I realized how big it had become in everyone's mind, how much of a lasting impression it had made on those children, and how they, if they weren't still watching the TV shows, but now they're playing the game, and now they're sort of invested back in their nostalgic experience, and all the Pokemon knowledge they have, really, they've stored up all this knowledge that had nowhere to use unless they were playing the game, the
Sure.
card game, which I mean, people still were, but now they're able to put that knowledge into this game and that enthusiasm, that feeling into this game. And and that sort of was the next time, 18 years after I sang the song,
That's incredible.
that I have had any contact with the Pokemon community. Um, and
Wow.
then, so for about 3 or 4 years, 3 years until the pandemic, I did a handful of Comic Cons, three, maybe four a year. Not a lot. I did my own organized Pokemon Go crawls, where I would go with people on the Pokemon Go crawl throughout the neighborhood with sponsored businesses that would give people discounts when the Pokemon Go people came into the Pokestop, that was in front of their
Yeah.
pizza place or whatever, and they wore wristbands, and I walked around and I sang the song with them and played Pokemon Go with them. It was really cool. Um, and up until the pandemic, and then pandemic shut us down, and we all had this incredible amount of time in our houses figuring out what to do and how to live our lives. A lot of people went into their garages and found their old Pokemon cards
Yeah.
and their own Pokemon things, and they went online to see what they were worth and to see what they could do with them. And all these Facebook groups and all these trading things started happening where people were selling Pokemon cards to each other that they found, and the value of the Pokemon cards went up because they everybody all at the same time realized they had them,
Yes.
and some of them had them in really good condition, and then they started requesting that I sign them. So then I became, involved with the Pokemon card collecting community, autographing people's cards instead of just posters at Comic Cons that I was my own headshot. I was autographing the posters that I
Right.
made. Now I'm autographing cards, and people are going out and they're reselling those cards, and they're grading those cards, and they're getting multiple Pokemon artists and voiceover people on a card, and then they're grading the autograph
Yeah.
and the card
Yeah.
and reselling it, and there's this whole market for autographs, much like the sports market,
Yep. Exactly.
except the sports have, tens of thousands of people who could be signing cards. In Pokemon, there's like 10 people.
Yeah, that's also true.
So maybe more, maybe 20 people that are in the signing world. And I am one of the last people to even figure that out because I was, doing all this other stuff
Yep.
while Veronica Taylor was touring the world since 2006, signing autographs for people everywhere, and she's had such a wonderful experience with the the fans, bringing joy at every event that she goes to, that I had no idea existed until
Yeah.
2016.
That's cool. I do think, yeah, it is just shows the power of nostalgia for people. And as you
Super
age and
important.
start to reflect on your childhood, you start to realize, wow, I really miss that. And that's pretty
It's
cool
a
that,
very pure time,
yeah,
we are very impressionable as children, and Pokemon inspires the imagination. When I got involved back in it, I mean, obviously I saw the video of it when it first came out, and when we did the session, I was exposed to the show for a few minutes. We watched it. We're like, okay, yeah, that's what it is. And then we did the session. Thought, oh, it kind of looks like Speed Racer. It's very primitive. The anime are they're not like Disney, detailed real life motion and everything. It leaves a lot to the imagination, as does the card game. It's just it's a picture, a piece of art on a tiny little card, and you create the world in your mind. It is empowering the imagination, our superpower, and children are that's the superpower that they're already so connected to, and Pokemon just gave them that opportunity to use that superpower and create the world of Pokemon that they imagine from a tiny little piece of paper or from a primitive cartoon that kind of moves a little bit weird in awkward ways, and it's so just, once again, it's just
Yeah.
these very basic drawings. Um, but the world that's created is robust and mostly exists in the mind of the child. The same thing with the song. This is a song that obviously it exists in your mind because it's coming through the air and it's just sound. There is no visual representation of the song. There is no music video of the song. There's no guy sitting there with a guitar playing the way that most music is presented in society. It's just underscoring their experience. Now, as adults, they want to know who sang the song, and I am now a guy standing on a
Yes.
stage singing the song, rocking out, and it's great to them that I can fulfill that rock star sort of pose, that rock star persona. I could have been a very different type of looking person and not ever done that, and never brought that to the stage for
Yeah.
them to experience. But because this nostalgia is such an important and valuable experience, we have and we have a lot of nostalgic things happening. The Comic Cons are all sort of based on that nostalgia. And I think it's really important for us to connect to that innocence, that
Yes.
purity, that timelessness, where our experience is based on our emotions and our heart and our joy and our excitement and our curiosity. And we all have something in our past that creates that, things that create that joy and that excitement, and re-experiencing them is a great thing
Oh
because it
yeah.
puts us back in that state. So yeah, nostalgia is extremely important, and I got a lot of it here
I
behind
know.
me.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just working on some Lego nostalgia now. We got the Lego
impressive.
Mania theme song
Oh
that's
wow.
out. This commercial that I wrote with a partner of mine, Russ Irwin, in 1995, that everybody knows. Lego Mania, Lego Mania, Lego Mania. Or everybody over the age of 35 that was watching commercials between 95 and 2000
Right.
knows. And there's a giant Lego community, and that community is not only nostalgic, but they're also really thinking about things because these Lego sets are really difficult to build.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
So
true.
I'm hitting the nostalgia button with the Lego people right
That's
now
great.
with a new song that I've created, a 2.5 minute version of that Lego Mania theme
Oh
song.
wow. That's
It's out
awesome.
on all platforms, so check it out.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, it sounds like you're staying busy then. You got plenty of stuff coming out. So
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's so much to do. In my own career, my music that I create and I write as well, and the history that I can reveal about all of these projects. Um, they all have a very robust history. Rent has a very interesting history. If you're interested in that, I don't know if you're.
I would, yeah, sure, absolutely. Share whatever you'd like.
Um, well, the history of Rent and myself is I was offered. Well, it all once again it starts with the What's Up show
Okay.
and me walking into the audition for Rent off Broadway, and Jonathan Larson, the composer of Rent, saying, "Oh, yeah, 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 you're the guy from the TV show. We love you. I watch your show all the time." The same kind of thing that I get from everybody in Manhattan at the time. And I sing a couple songs with him. The whole show had not been fully constructed, so I sang for Angel, "I'll Cover You,"
Hmm.
which is, a duet. And I actually sang that duet in the audition with Jonathan Larson. And then I sang a Roger song and a Mark song. Roger and Mark are the main characters of the show. Roger, and I'll go on a little bit later to tell you about those two characters. But I booked the show, and I wasn't able to do it because I had some other show I was doing, and I couldn't do it, and there were so many things going on, so I didn't do the show. Jonathan Larson had some kind of medical. I think he had a brain aneurysm, and he died the night before opening night of Rent off Broadway.
Wow.
The emotion and the experience that came out of the cast that night was enough to it was a catalyst to create the show, to get the show. Well, it got a lot of press, first of all, but it also like made it so important to get his messages out, his messages of love and light and community and tolerance and all these other amazing things. That the show went on to become a Broadway show. It became an off-Broadway success, and then it went on to Broadway. And I had so many people in my life that were a part of that show, that lived with me, that multiple casts that I hung out with. But when when we got the script for the show, in the beginning scene, you see Roger and Mark gives a monologue, and he talks about Roger and his gigs at CBGB's and the Pyramid Club. And Mark himself is running around the East Village with a video camera, filming the homeless shelters getting ripped down, and they're protesting against the homeless. In my What's Up TV show, it was a band. We were playing all of those places Roger's band was playing. In my TV show, on the backdrop of my wall, is all of the posters from CBGB's and the Pyramid Club and all those places mentioned in this, basically the character, two character types that I was going in to play were in a sense based on the reality of my life. I
Oh
was
wow.
Mark running around the East Village. My band played in the home, my band's video that we put on our public access show was torn down because of the homeless living in it. And we were one of the last people to actually film our video with the homeless people in the band shell that ripped away from them as their home. And all of our skits were filmed in the East Village. I was Mark running around the East Village with my camera. And I was also Roger playing CBGB's in the Pyramid Club. We know that Jonathan was watching my show, and it kind of put two and two together. So I met the incredible Neil Patrick Harris
Hmm.
during the Broadway performance when I was hanging out with other friends of mine who had done the show on Broadway. And Neil was introduced to the What's Up show by a friend of his, and he did, and so we were connected by that at the time. Um, and then 10 years later, Neil Patrick Harris was directing the show at the Hollywood Bowl, and he asked me to be in the show. So
Wow.
after 10 years, 15 years, yeah, 2010, so 12 years after Rent opened off Broadway, 10 years after it opened on Broadway, I was finally in the show that had impacted my life in so many ways without having ever done the show. Um,
Jeez.
it's still to this day an amazing community. There's rent groups, and it has impacted so many people's lives across the world. Um, from Jonathan's work lives on, and it's pretty amazing that I got to meet him and actually sing with him. And most of the people that have done the show never met him because there was just the handful of people that were in the off Broadway production
Yeah.
that met him. Um, he worked right at this time. He worked at this place called when I auditioned, the Moon Dance Diner, which was right across the street from where I worked at Triplets Romanian Steakhouse. It was the last job I had besides singing and performing. And we used to go after our shift over to Moon Dance Diner and have food. And he worked there, and so kind of I didn't know him from that place. That's just another coincidental contact I had with the composer of Rent and the incredible, you know, history of it in my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, really just shows how impactful these things are on people, and it's great that you're able to be involved with stuff that impacted your life, but also create stuff like Pokemon. Working on the Pokemon theme song that impacts other people's lives, because I think that's really kind of the main point of I think the work that people do is wanting to kind of um, you know give what you were given kind of by other artists. So
100%. Our goal here is to be the very best of our ourselves,
yeah,
like no one ever was, because no
yeah,
one can be like us. Each of us is individually unique and has a special gift that we're trying to give to the world, and give to ourselves first, to be satisfied with our own efforts for ourselves, and then to be able to give that gift to those around us, our family, our community, and the world as well.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing with this podcast. That's what I've been doing with my voice for 30 years, a little more, 40 years.
Yeah.
So that's it. And I'm lucky that I plant some of these seeds, because these are all not me. They're me and a whole bunch of other people planting all of these seeds to make all these things happen, and all those people coming together to do all that work to then affect everybody. And we're planting the seeds, but the audience and the people that receive are doing a lot of work in this Pokemon ecosystem.
Yeah.
Pokemon creates the content initially, but there's so much content created by the fans out of their love now that it dwarfs the amount of content that Pokemon actually creates.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So
It is
it's really a
amazing.
beautiful ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely it's amazing how, just uh, one show can go on to change so many people's lives, impact so many people's lives, and that's why I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your experiences kind of behind the scenes, because you've influenced through your work so many people. I remember watching that show growing up, and that theme song was probably out of the entire show. Like, theme song's the main thing I remember, because it was
Yeah.
just something that, the magic of music where it just stays with you in your head. Um, and just super powerful. But yeah, very thankful for all the contributions you've made to, the history of people's childhoods. Really.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very thankful for it as well. That I was alive in a time when there were limitations on what we could receive from the media. And really, there's this unifying factor doesn't exist anymore. I don't think
Mm,
there's any platform that can deliver just one or three channels, basically.
yeah.
Every platform has 1,000 different things that you could, millions at this point, that you could be receiving at any time. And because in the days of Pokemon 1998, we were just starting to get cable, I think, but anybody that didn't have cable was still watching the three or four channels that they could get on TV.
Yeah.
So because of that limitation, everybody saw this thing. And and not everybody, but a good percentage of the population that was actually watching TV would watch one of the four channels, or cable, one of the 17 channels.
Sure.
And now we're in a position where each individual is getting content tailored to their own particular interests and needs,
Yeah.
so specifically that the unique individual that you are is getting a whole different thing than what I'm getting in my feed.
Yep.
So we don't really share these common experiences anymore, which in ways is good, in ways
Yeah.
is bad. Um, you know, Politically, it's probably that's the most unifying and dividing thing,
Yeah. No
because
kidding. Yeah.
we only get to share the limitations of this guy or that guy,
Yep.
and then we can fight about those two things.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I get it. It's gotta be one person at the end of the day, but we could have a little bit more choice with that particular
No kidding. Yeah.
that particular
Yeah.
situation would be
That's,
nice. It'd be kind of more like Netflix, where you have at least,
yeah.
dozens of things on the front page that you could choose.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Wouldn't be a bad thing for sure. Yeah.
So, but yeah, we can't really relate to a commercial jingle anymore, because there's not one jingle that everybody knows that just came out.
Yeah.
There's barely any songs or any modern pop music that most people know anymore. It's very hard for a song to become the song that everybody knows nowadays. And
Yeah.
the same thing with movies and TV.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. The world has changed so much, that yeah, different future generations are going to have very different experiences when it comes to what they remember and how they can kind of share that remembrance with others. So
I mean, it goes back to the roots of reality.
That's right. That's right. That's
We're trying to all understand what the roots of reality
yeah,
are,
exactly.
and is there one idea? Is there a definite root
Yeah.
that exists, or is it interpretive?
Oh yeah.
What are the roots of reality?
Exactly. Yeah. It's you could get a lot of different answers to that question depending on who you ask. That's right.
Yeah, history is continuing to rewrite itself.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
as we can watch it be rewritten on Wikipedia pages, and we can watch
Yep.
websites get taken out and new ones get put up, and fake news get edited and
Yep.
changed. And if they can do it now, imagine how they did it back in the day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. It's yeah definitely something that is an evolving project to try to understand what is the history of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're on that pursuit and
Yeah.
helping us figure it all out.
Yeah. Trying to help as best I can. But yeah, thank you again for coming on the podcast and just sharing your journey. And it's an important part of history. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully there'll be a documentary on it very soon.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Definitely.